Do you think you got a cannabis compliance program that can withstand the test of time, new regulations, and also can be implemented effectively? Well, let's get into it and talk about the most common mistakes I see as a cannabis compliance expert in operations and strategizing compliance to ensure that you are on top of your game all the time. So first and foremost, let's talk about what is a cannabis compliance program. So this is an internal framework to protect the business from violating any local, state, or federal laws, rules, regulations, what have you. Framework might consist of written procedures, regulatory tracking and updates, record keeping, documentation, employee training and education, internal audits and monitoring, quality control and testing like COA testing, security and risk management, incident reporting and response, evacuation plans. The list goes on and on. And in my opinion, depending on the size of your operation, there will be one centralized dedicated person that has to maintain all of these things, or you might even have an entire team dedicated to maintaining and overseeing and doing internal audits to make sure that business is up to par with the things that you need to stay in standard for. That's a mouthful, right? Which is exactly why I suggest that you have an internal framework consisting of written procedures, training plans, videos, and also even internal glossary, such as the table of contents to help manage all of your documentation. And this is no easy feat. It might take you years to be able to build this, which is exactly why I have an online compliance operations certification program to get you 70% of the way there with already pre-built documents, templates, training plans, and the entire framework pretty much already built out for you. You just need to customize it to your own needs. So if you're interested to learn more about that, head over to academy.rmcc.io. And when it comes to building out your compliance program, essentially, you need to find the sweet spot between compliance, operations, and efficiency. More than likely, your compliance person and your operations person, you're gonna feel some tension between those two roles within your business, which is totally okay. That just means that one is trying to push the limits operationally and from an efficiency standpoint, while the compliance team is kind of trying to bring them back in. And if that is you, if you're in either one of those positions, just know you're on the same team. You're trying to get to the same goal. You're trying to make sure the business is profitable and successful and withstand long-term turbulence. So just know, even if you're struggling with that a bit, I get that a lot from my students, that it's really challenging to work with our operations team, which I totally understand. Just know you're on the same team and trying to get to the same goal, and try to work together when you're trying to find those operational best practices that will keep the business efficient. So a few common mistakes that I've seen when people build out their compliance program. One, they try to put all of this work on one individual person, which a lot of times that person will get burnt out. So on average, a compliance officer lasts in the cannabis industry about 8 to 9 months with one company, which is a very low employee retention. And a lot of times these compliance officers are getting burnt out because they feel like they're not being heard, they're feeling underappreciated, and they essentially just feel like they're coming up against a wall all the time. And so if that's you, you just need to kind of figure out other strategies on how to work with your team. And one of the best ways to do that is look at the data. Start comparing how people are doing or how your facilities are doing with internal audits, creating a scoring system. With that scoring system, you could then incentivize those facility managers to want to do better by incentivizing a bonus structure through that. There's a lot of different ways you can go about this, but your best tool is data, and always doing internal audits with a grading system. Additional common mistakes that I see is assuming that the operations manager is also the compliance role. Yes, the operations manager needs to understand compliance rules and regulations, but again, more than likely, your operations person is trying to push the limits and be as efficient as possible. And so if that is you, if your operations person is also your compliance person, your red flags should be going off right now because those are not the same position. And finally, one of the other common mistakes that I see in compliance programs is the assumption that the SOPs that you completed for your application process are the only SOPs you need within the business. Again, that is just not realistic. Why? Well, the reason for this is because when you are writing out your applications to get your cannabis business license, more than likely you're citing different regulations. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z workflow per X, Y, and Z regulation, right? And so when that happens, if you were to use that document internally within your operations, and if you tried to hand that over to one of your employees, they're not going to go read the regulations that you just quoted that say per X, Y, and Z. They're just not going to do it. And so within your operations, you need to transform your SOPs into something called a playbook. And that playbook is going to have very, very detailed step-by-step instructions. You're going to have screenshots of any virtual platforms that you're using. You're going to link to other SOPs and directly to other documents and templates that you're using, and truly transform this document into something that they can go step by step by step and know exactly how to do that workflow. If you don't know where to begin with your compliance program, here are 2 steps I want you to do. 1, complete an internal audit of the business. That internal audit, what that looks like is it could be an 80 to 200 question internal checklist where you're gonna look at everything from OSHA to labels to COAs to shipments to current inventory to employee retention and training plans. Like, look at the entire business as a whole from an operations, record retention, and employee standpoint. From there, you can then start to build this grading system to determine how in compliance or out of compliance you are. The second step that you're going to do is then take a look at your SOPs and truly ask yourself, how do I do this? What do I need to do? When do I need to do it? And once you start answering those questions, you will be able to digest that SOP more into a playbook format. And then of course, add photos, add screenshots, and any other type of resources people need to be able to do that process step by step by step. And again, if you need some more help with this, if you feel lost and overwhelmed in building out your compliance program yourself, then just head over to academy.rmcc.io and book a call with me to talk about what you need to be able to build your compliance program right now. And of course, the online compliance operations certification program details all of these things and already has 70% of the program already built for you. So I hope to see you on the other side.